Hi, my name is Mike Dillard, and this is Self-Made Man, the podcast for men who want to leave their mark on the world and create a legacy of honor, integrity, and achievement in every aspect of their lives. I'm glad you're here, and once again, it is time to forge your destiny. 2 years ago, a video with a red-headed hippie wearing a purple shirt and a flower sticking out of his headband popped up on my Facebook feed that was titled, How to Be Ultra Spiritual. It was one of the funniest videos that I'd ever seen, and it quickly went viral with tens of millions of views. Well, that video, and the ones to follow, signaled the birth of the JP Sears Ultra Spiritual brand, and the character whose videos have now been viewed over 100 million times. Now, there are very few opportunities to witness the birth of a successful brand from the very beginning, especially one that sprouted from someone with no real marketing experience or agenda, and who spent the previous 10 years as an emotional healing coach with a private counseling practice. Well, today we have a chance to pull back the curtain on the character and to meet the real JP. You're going to hear the story behind the viral videos, how he managed to pull those off, and how you can apply his methodology to your business. We'll also get into the challenges that come with internet fame and that might be preventing you from sharing your ideas with the world on a grander scale. And we're even going to dive into the very serious topic of how to heal the emotional traumas that we've all experienced in life and that can hold us back from living the absolute best life that we can. This week's recommended resource is fullyaccountable.com. Fully Accountable is a bookkeeping and a financial management firm for small businesses that I started using last year. They send me detailed reports of all the important metrics in my business every single day, from the number of new leads to sales to even daily net profit. So I know exactly what is happening each and every day in my business, and my experience using them has been fantastic. So if you need to get your company finances under control, go check out fullyaccountable.com. This is not a paid ad or endorsement. It's just my recommended resource to you guys because I get a lot of value from their services. With that being said, here is Mr. JP Sears. Hello once again, Mike Dillard here, and today I have a feeling we're going to be laughing quite a bit because it's already happened in the first 2 minutes that I've had a chance to say hello to this gentleman today who will be joining us. You've all seen him on Facebook, you've all seen him on YouTube with his spiritual videos, so I'm absolutely thrilled, JP Sears, to have you on the show today and to get into your real story of who you are, how you came to be, and how you came to join our lives and make us laugh on such a regular basis. But welcome to the show. I'm super excited to have you here.
Oh, well, thank you, Mike, for welcoming me, your excitement. And I have to tell you, really from the bottom of my heart, I'm honored to be here. And also now I'm incredibly frightened because you told everybody that they're going to laugh. So now I like those expectations because I feel like everything hereafter will be an utter failure. So happy to be here with you, brother.
Yeah, awesome. So you started showing up in my Facebook feed probably a year, 2 years ago with your How to Be Ultra Spiritual series of videos with your signature purple t-shirt and your flowered headband. And you just have released so many videos that I don't know the term to describe the sense of humor or the approach that you bring to serious subject matters to make them seem so much less serious and more approachable. But where did you come from? Like, what's your background? Are you, a real spiritual guide or counselor, for people, or is this just kind of all a shtick? But what's your story?
Yeah, I love that. Well, here's my story. What the facts are, I don't know, but I got my story and I'm sticking to it. So my delusional opinion of my story is, first and foremost, yes, everything I do videos on is it's subject matter that's very near and dear to my heart. It's important subject matter. So in fact, I won't do parody videos, satirical videos on things that aren't in my life because it just doesn't feel good to me. It feels like the humor would be coming from a more of a condescending, judgmental energy. Like, I think it was last week, I put out a video on the entrepreneur life.
Oh, I got to tell you, that hurt, brother. That was close to home. I was like, I feel like he wrote this right after listening to my podcast or watching my video.
Well, Mike, here's my question for you. What's it mean about me when I feel good hearing you say that it hurts you? Is that like, am I a sociopath?
No, yeah, it
But,
was like it hit close to home for sure. So yeah.
well, appreciate you having some laughs and maybe some hurt about it. But and honestly, that video hits close home to me too, because I'm in the entrepreneur space. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to do the video. Is for all these years I've been a part of the culture, and it's like, all right, it's time for me to do a video on this. And I guess before I get into my backstory, I will say that one of my honestly selfish reasons why I do the videos I do is it helps me be less attached to what's important to me. And I think a biohack for the mind, like one way to hack the mind, is learn to be playful about that which is most important to you. And I find for myself and a lot of other people in my sphere, somewhere along the way, we were is like almost brainwashed into believing that if something is important to us, then we can only be serious about it. And
Yeah,
and
I can relate to that. I'm definitely guilty of that one.
yeah, and I think there's nothing wrong with being serious. I think it's an important mental faculty to have. And I think it serves us well at times, but I don't think it serves us well, all day, every day. I think when we can be playful with that which is most important to us, it helps put us more into a creative mindset, and it helps us move beyond the potential limits of a given belief, if that makes a little bit of sense. So I think when we're in a state, a mindset of only seriousness, like, okay, I'm an entrepreneur or I'm spiritual, so I'm going to be serious about my entrepreneurship or my spirituality. To me, the hand of seriousness really it like strangulates our prefrontal cortex, really the brilliant part of our brain. And the seriousness therefore keeps us in more of a fight or flight response. And funny thing about a fight or flight mindset is there's no creativity there.
Yep.
And maybe most importantly, the quality of life when we're interacting in that space just goes down. So, with all that said, my backstory for the past 15 years, principally what I've spent most of my time doing is in my client coaching practice, where I do emotional healing work with people and also teaching and leading retreats on different healing, self-growth, and personal empowerment themes. So, my growth, my emotional life, my spiritual life, my business life are all very important to me. And just in the past couple of years, I've learned how to actually squeeze more juice out of those gems by becoming playful with that which is most important to me. So I selfishly do the videos for myself. The fact that other people want to watch them and hopefully get something meaningful out of them in their deeper messages rather than just the entertainment sake, to me, that's just all a absolutely beautiful bonus.
Well, let's go into more detail on the emotional healing side. What is that exactly? What would be some examples, and how did you get into that?
Sure. Well, how I got into it is I was arrogant as hell. I was, let's say I was about 20 years old. And I had been into health and fitness, just like, oh, these things are awesome. But the breadcrumb trail, better said, the gluten-free breadcrumb trail of health and fitness led me into the deeper reaches of the mind and then the human heart. And so I got really interested in the emotional impact in our lives, how our emotions can be a powerful asset that works for us or a powerful force that works against us. It depends on what are we doing with our emotions. Do we digest them and feel them, or do we restrict them and suppress them? So at 20 years old, I became very intrigued about facilitating emotional healing, becoming an emotional healing coach, wanting always to work under the umbrella of a coach rather than as a traditional therapist. There's, in my opinion, just more personability and freedom under the coach umbrella, just my taste. And once I really immersed myself in the studies and being mentored by legitimately wise people, I quickly found out, holy crap, the reason why I want to essentially give emotional healing to other people is because I'm in desperate need of it for me. I was just projecting my need for emotional healing onto the world around me and wanting to give it to the world around me because I didn't have the humbleness and the sensitivity and vulnerability to recognize and acknowledge, I need this for me. I'm a pretty wounded person. I've just been numb, very numb for the first 20 years of my life, which gave me the illusion that I don't have pain. I think the irony about numbness, whether it's physical numbness or psychological numbness, is it's the highest threshold of pain that we can experience. And then the ironic part is we don't feel what we're feeling when we're in that high threshold of pain. So we can be sort of the walking dead where we have no idea how much pain we're in because it's so much pain we're numb. So that was me. And man, I really didn't like it when my mentors started shining the light on how I needed this. It really shattered my sense of control about who I am into the world and how strong and put together I am. And I definitely had a big tablespoon of humbleness fed to me. So that certainly prompted me to really invest in my healing journey.
Can you walk us through? I'm really interested in this process.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through what the process of emotional healing is? Like, what does that look like to go through? Are there steps? Are there milestones?
Sure. There are many variations of steps. In other words, many tools to facilitate the process. I have zero attachment to any tool, though I use tools. I don't worship any of the tools. But in the most distilled down version, in my opinion, when we are in emotional pain, which, by the way, just a quick caveat to that, oftentimes we don't know we're in emotional pain, but we're noticing symptomatic expressions of it. So that might be self-sabotage, where we sabotage our relationships, sabotage our finances. Our business becomes a playing ground where we're just replicating unresolved patterns of pain and dysfunction from our family of origin. So when we start to notice repetitive patterns of chaos and sabotage in our lives, that oftentimes tells us, ooh, there's probably some unresolved emotional residues inside of me that I'm not aware of. And I think part of the blessing of what feels like a curse at the time, but part of the blessing of crap going wrong in life, business failing, relationships failing, not another one, or my business is so good, but I feel completely unfulfilled. Part of the blessing of that discomfort is it gets our attention. I mean, I'm not going to be the first one to say it, yet from my point of view, pain is a great motivator. So nonetheless, once we discover I too am one of these things called a human being, therefore I have my wounds, I have my emotional challenges, then we start to look inward. And for me, here's the distilled down version of what emotional healing is. We connect to feelings that we're disconnected from. And we feel the feelings. We become vulnerable. And one of the tools that I use a lot in my practice is inner child work. So I have a lot of people imagine their inner child is in front of them. So it's like, Mike, imagine 5-year-old you in front of you. And we've just talked about, okay, here's what happened when you were 5. You dealt with it the only way you knew how to when you were 5, which was probably dealing with it by not dealing with it, escaping it, avoiding it, compensating for it. So I'd have people say, okay, Mike, what do you need to say to your 5-year-old self? What's he feeling? as a way of facilitating within the person. They do it for themselves, I don't, but facilitating a reconnection to feeling. And I'm a big fan of believing that if anything rhymes, then it's true. So we can't heal what we don't feel. Feeling is the evidence of healing. And that's not to say we want to get, connect with this core shame inside of us and get stuck there and just feel it forever. No, we're not talking about dwelling in it. We're talking about digesting it, just the same way we run food through our digestive tract. If it's moving, it's working for us. But when the food gets constipated, that's when that source of nutrition can become a source of toxicity. So, the old thing about emotions, it's E-motion, energy in motion. When we put the emotion back into motion, that means we're feeling it. And if we're truly feeling it, even though it's uncomfortable, it's one of the healthiest, empowering things we can do to ourselves, in my experience.
So you went through this process yourself with mentors, and then you turned it into a practice, which I assume was the beginning of your entrepreneurial career. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Correct, yeah.
And how long did you do that?
Well, funny you should ask. It's been 15 years that I've been doing the emotional healing work, and it's just been this, earlier this month, actually last month at this point, that I'm at a point in my business where I need to let the client practice go. So it's actually an interesting transition. Over the past couple of years, as great new opportunities have come, my client practice went from full-time to just couple days a week, and now I've recently needed to make the decision to let a great thing go.
That's a big move. Big decision, yeah.
And I'll tell you, I don't know about you, Mike. It's the easy decisions are letting bad things go. But to me, that like the warrior spirit inside of us really becomes activated when our heart calls us to grow beyond something that has served us so well, something that served other people so well. It's been a great thing, but our heart calls us to let it go because there's something next. We don't necessarily know what that is, not all the time in advance, but honestly, that's scary for me. I'm not sure how it is for you.
Yeah, well, no, that's why I was saying that. That's a big move, for 10, 12, 13 years of private practice to all of a sudden cut that loose. And obviously you've bridged, you've built an amazing bridge and created a bunch of new opportunities. So it's not like you're cutting the rope now with nothing else to move on to. But it's actually, a really great transition point, because I'm sure the videos that you've started to put out have been a big part of that. So what inspired you to create your first video? Why did you do it? Tell us about that.
Well, I think there's two principal inspirations. One was part of my authentic self is a very humorous dude. I mean, the humorous part of me, it's not all of me, but it's a very real part of me. Always has been since I was a child, and, how I dealt with pain in childhood, how I escaped and buried my pain was typically through humor. So I had a lot of kind of comedy exercise because it's part of how I survived childhood. And so nonetheless, being humorous and seeing things through a satirical perspective, which satirical is just sort of my taste of humor, my unique fingerprint. It's always been a part of me, but for I guess it would have been the first 13 years of my career, I told myself a story that said letting my humor out in the professional setting would be bad for business. And, worse yet, I was gullible enough to believe that story that I told myself. So, I reached a point where I was tired of betraying myself, tired of not letting this authentic part of me be an element of my professional life. So self-betrayal, just got tired of that. Even though when I made my first comedy video, I thought, I still think this will be bad for business, but I got to do it. I got to do it to honor myself. And it turns out I was pretty dead wrong on that whole it'll be bad for business thing. Kind of taught me, okay, JP, don't believe everything you think. And then the other inspiration is I needed it. I needed to start taking myself a hell of a lot less seriously, especially in my self growth practice. It's just like, oh, I'm becoming a bit too dogmatic, a bit too attached to that which served me well, but it's no longer serving me. It's kind of like it's expired. So yeah, I think those were the two principal inspirations for me to begin what's been a beautiful journey for me.
So walk us through, I'm just imagining you deciding to do this and what the process looked like. Where did you come up with the t-shirt? What was the flowered headband, and what was the name of the first video?
Yeah, which by the way, Mike, I'm going to spill your secret to all the listeners. Are you ready?
Okay, let's do it.
So before we connected for the podcast, we were on video Skype, and I want everybody to know Mike wears a headband with a flower in it too. And Mike, I know on your podcast you pretend like you don't, but I just think you need to honor the real you. So I thought I'd spill your secret for you.
JP, I have this story that people are not going to accept me, that part of me.
Be your true self, brother. So the first comedy video I did was called How to Be Ultra Spiritual. And it was all about, well, let me share with people ways they can maybe increase their spiritual connection, but I'll do that satirically by telling them how to become more spiritual by modeling how not to do it. So in other words, I'm going to give horrible advice as a way of pointing to probably what is good advice. And my girlfriend at the time was behind the camera, and I'm just getting ready to roll. I'm in front of the camera. And then at the last minute, I said, people in the new age spiritual culture, sometimes they wear headbands, flowers. And I said, do you have like a headband I could wear? And then, she always had flowers around the house. And she's like, no, I don't have a headband, but I've got this scarf. So she pulls out this green lace scarf out of her closet. And which, by the way, when we broke up, I got the scarf. I still use it. She got my pride, but I got the scarf. This scarf is way more valuable. So, it was just at the last moment, I threw that on. And at the time, I had no idea that I'd be doing reoccurring videos. And therefore, I had no idea that I was creating and expressing a character. And now it's come to be that the headband, the purple T-shirt, the flower, that's just sort of like part of the signature of the character. So it's fun, honestly, to look back and say, wow, I didn't know I was creating this weirdo character.
As I watch your videos, I'm wondering, is all of this off the cuff in the spur of the moment? All of the lines, or do you sit down and do you think about it and kind of write ideas on paper for a while? What does that look like?
Yeah, so any serious video I do, which on my YouTube channel, I don't know, I've got probably 150 serious videos. Those are all off the cuff. But here specifically with the comedy videos, I script them. And I've come to really value the creative process of writing, rehearsing, and then getting in front of the camera. 90% of everything is already taken care of. It's just on camera. It's the last 10% of connecting with the feelings, the tonality, and the body language and facial expressions that just feel like, okay, that, how I just said that, what my face was doing, that felt like it did that line justice. Cool. And it's taken me a while to figure out what my creative process is. A lot of trial and error, hell of a lot of doing things that don't work to better find what does work. But I find doing essentially the hard stuff before I'm on camera is very helpful to me, very supportive of the sort of end stage creative expression.
So, that video went viral, I believe, and because I remember watching it. And did you anticipate that? Did you expect that? And when it happened, what was that like? The good, the bad, the ugly.
Yeah. So I was very blessed. It went viral. apparently don't make a vaccine for that video, so the virus spread. And it was absolutely not expected. It was quite a surprise. In fact, that the first video, How to Be Ultra Spiritual, someone actually ripped it off my YouTube channel, uploaded it to their Facebook page, and that really set off a great blessing of virality right there in and of itself. And it honestly, like, at the time when it started going viral, it was very gratifying to my ego. I mean, I'd love to just play the humble card, but I'll be real. Like, yeah, it was gratifying as heck to my ego. And, you know, I had the whole thing of delusionally thinking, oh, I guess I'm a more valuable person here. I'm something special because look at the views rack up. And so that was a thrill. And also part of the struggle was there was a time where in the beginning, for I think a short period, I really started to lose myself to sort of this addicted desire to be gratified through viewership. It's kind of like, oh, I got a nice high, you know, the endorphins are going with this video going viral. What can I do next to get more attention? And so I had to lose myself in that sort of distraction for a little while before I realized, wow, this isn't what I'm about. And it also feels empty and hollow to kind of be pointing in the direction of what will please people and almost like worshiping people's attention. So I was grateful to recognize that and break that pattern, because without that, or by doing so, it allowed me to turn back into my heart and sort of sound cliche, but I was able to dance better with my creative muse. And I'm not sure about yourself, Mike, or all the listeners, but when I'm in my creative process, it serves me really well to ignore the heck out of my audience and to be in a genuine space of not giving a damn what people think, but just being very monogamous for those, you know, creative hours where I am just paying attention to the creative spirit that's inspiring me now. And there's been many videos that I've done where once I put the video together before I release it, I'll say, like, I don't think this is going to get good viewership. And I don't care. It was so fulfilling to make. The creative process it's just very inner fulfilling to me. And, you know, in my prediction, is a video going to go super viral or not? I'm typically just... I'm not Nostradamus there, but what matters most to me is, especially when I'm in the creative space, just ignoring what are people going to think and honoring the heart and soul of the creative spirit. And I know I kind of sound like a cliche eccentric artist when I say that, and I'm grounded in other aspects of my business, but man, when I'm in my creative space, I need to be that eccentric, like, oh, I'm just going to ignore life and dance with the creative muse.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. You know, I think the moment you start to force things for the sake of business growth or numbers or payroll or whatever, it's just the beginning of a downhill run. And I'm like, man, you've got such a huge audience that will need your wisdom on this and your experience. And I'm thinking of the new, you know, high school, college generation now that live with their phones pointed towards them. What's your take on that? Because I think it's going to be a huge issue.
What'd you say, Mike? I didn't hear you. I was checking Facebook.
Right. You were taking a Snapchat.
I was. In fact, you know, I'm doing my best to cut all my friends and family out of my personal life, because so I can better engage with everybody on social media, because I find the people in my personal life, they just can't give me very many likes or very many views.
Right, exactly.
But I'm getting great results, man. I'm lonely. So, man, and I appreciate you asking my point of view, and I'd love to hear your point of view as well. Yeah, in a nutshell, my point of view is I'm concerned. People having especially kids, by the way, kids, teenagers, those are the developmental years of our life. it's one thing. Like, Mike, you and I were old goats here. We didn't have during our developmental years smartphones. I mean, I didn't even have my first email account until I was at least 20. So I think you and I were able to build a foundation of something in our psychology that was solid enough for us to potentially better handle this still tantalizingly seductive thing called the phone, the tech, and everything that it delivers. So for me, it's a struggle enough, even though we've had the foundation of people skills and connecting to the real freaking world developed. So with kids, teenagers, I am concerned that when they're looking at their phone, it represents them disconnecting from themselves. And I think really the seed of all disease, and take this with a grain of sea salt because it's, an oversimplified statement. So here it is with the salt. I do believe that all disease, if not a lot of disease, is caused at a core root by us becoming disconnected from ourselves. So, when people are checking their phone 140 times a day, there's something driving that. I think we become obsessive compulsive, not about checking our phone, but obsessive compulsive about disconnecting from ourselves. And us checking our phone just becomes the tool with which we, it's the crowbar that we pry ourselves away from ourselves. We withdraw our attention from our thoughts, our feelings, our inspirations, our pain, our joys, from all of it. So, a wise man once told me his definition of boredom, a wise man named John McMullen, one of my original mentors. He said, boredom is simply the anxiety about being in your own company. And I think it takes people almost 7 seconds to get bored now. And what that means to me is people can only tolerate their own company for about 7 seconds now. And I don't think we'll ever have a good quality of life in terms of success on the outside, but more significantly, inner fulfillment on the inside, unless we can connect deeply with ourselves. So do I think is Donald Trump going to sign an executive order to take all our phones away from us? Like, who knows? Probably not. And I don't think that should be done. But I think there needs to be a lot more education that we give young people about what it can cost them by having this compulsive disorder of always needing the phone in the hand. It's one thing using the tool. It's another thing being used by the tool. So I'm going to get off my soapbox, Mike, and I really would love to hear what's your perspective on the deal.
Yeah, well, it's just interesting to me because, one of the biggest lessons that I've learned as I started my journey down the personal development path, I'd say in high school or college, reading Tony Robbins and all of that stuff is you very quickly learn as an entrepreneur that the path to success in any form or fashion that you want to measure that is through serving others and providing value to others. Yeah. And so, we tend to look outward for problems that we can solve or people that we can serve. And this whole generation is looking inward. And it's just this solely ego-based behavior pattern that I'm just wondering how in the world they're going to to switch that, because once it's ingrained, as you mentioned, in those years, it's how you're wired, and it would take a lot of effort to descramble that. So that's kind of it. But one of the other questions I've had on pause here before we move too far off the path, just for reference and context, and then I'll ask the question for you. Do you have any idea how many views your videos have gotten since you started doing this?
Between YouTube and Facebook, it's over 100 million views. It might be knocking on the door a little bit north of 200 million, but it's a humbling amount, to be honest with you.
So the question is, natural consequence of that amount of attention is going to be a lot of negativity. And it doesn't matter who you are, what your message is. There's going to be a lot of, frankly, just assholes who take out their anger on you and write something rude or whatever it may be. personally, I don't enjoy that. And it still bugs me very much when I get negative comments on my posts or ads or whatever, especially that are false or untrue in whatever context that they are. So it's very much prevented me from wanting to put myself out there in the same way. And an example of that would be, I'm very, very, very tempted to write and produce a video on the way I see what's taking place in the world today, specifically from a political standpoint, and the division that is unbelievably tangible over the last year, and why that came about, and what the potential solution is. And yet I don't want to do that because I know that even though it might be really helpful, it's just going to bring a ton of attention that I don't want as well.
Yeah.
So what's your feedback on that for those who might have the same fear?
And well, first, Mike, I can't believe you think you'd get backlash by doing that video. Right. Well, man, we're going to get the pitchforks out. Yeah, that's real. I mean, to me, it's a real concern. It's a part of the reality, like it or not. So yeah, how do you deal with that? I'm going to get theoretical here for a second. You know, one of my favorite authors, Brene Brown. I'd imagine you know of her.
I've heard the name. I have not had a chance to go through her work.
Cool. And honestly, she's one of my favorite authors, but I've never read any of her books, which is kind of cool. But she's got an awesome quote. It's a one-liner, and it's enough that, she's one of my favorite authors now. So Brene Brown, she does amazing work bringing vulnerability into essentially the zeitgeist. It's amazing. I think vulnerability is just, it's what we all need more of. But anyway, that's another discussion at another time. She has a thought that says he or she who's willing to be the most uncomfortable, it's not only the bravest, but rises the highest. I keep that quote at the forefront of my mind. Embrace uncomfortability rather than moving away from it. Is it uncomfortable for me to get negative comments? Yeah. And I'll say more about how I deal with that, but I need to frame for myself mentally the discomfort, because typically when myself, and I think a lot of other people, when something is uncomfortable, we automatically create this mental story that says, it's uncomfortable, so it's bad, and it's bad for me. And it's like, okay, well, here's the North Star of Brene Brown's thought that, from my interpretation, says, if it's uncomfortable, it might actually be good for you. Just because it feels bad, just because you feel the sting of criticism, you see someone criticize you, then your inner critic starts criticizing you, so you get like a double sting of criticism. Just because it feels bad doesn't mean it's bad for you. It might actually be very good for you, might actually be very empowering for you. And I also anchor that with my belief, wrong or right, but it's my belief that says, hurtful feelings, the uncomfortable feelings, they've never hurt anybody. I don't think painful emotions have ever hurt anybody. I think where we get hurt is trying to avoid those painful emotions. So trying to escape a sense of shame, of criticism, I think is what hurts us. And one of the ways that we try to escape the pain of it is by avoiding it in the first place. And I love I really love your humbleness of being able to express, like, part of you wants to avoid it, because I think you have a voice that represents all of us. I think you just have the courage to say what is the reality for all of us. I think we're all scared to do that. And one of the questions is, are you willing to be scared but move forward anyway? So with that said, that's my mental framework. It's important to me. It helps me understand the uncomfortability a little more. And then there's two other things, just to get a little bit more practical. When there's the negative comments, and man, how much have the trolls on YouTube or wherever, how much have the trolls learned that the way I get attention in life is by creating conflict? I mean, it really tells us a lot about their childhood. They haven't learned to get attention by being valued. They haven't learned to get attention by connecting genuinely with people. They've learned to get attention by getting people angry at them. It's just like the little boy whose father would always ignore him unless dad was raging at him. And was that scary? Probably. And was that the only time the kid was getting attention? Yeah. So they're that kind of, honestly, wound-driven behavior comes out on the internet. Now, one, I like to understand, when people are acting nasty, what we're really dealing with is someone who's hurting deeply inside. I like to remind myself of that. Because the heart and soul of my work is helping people to help themselves. So the last thing I want to do is hurt someone who's already hurt. So they're projecting their hurt out onto you and I and other people in the spotlight. They're projecting their hurt by trying to hurt us. So to me, it's important to not engage with that because, one, I don't want to hurt a hurt person. And two, nobody has ever resolved a conflict in the comment section on YouTube or a comment thread on Facebook. It's just like cancer spreading. So, and by the way, I'm also a big fan of, I don't delete rageful comments. I mean, if there's like hateful racial slurs, then I'll have my assistant deletes those. I don't want that kind of stuff on there. But if someone's saying something about me,
you damn ginger, JP.
Yeah. By the way, I hate white people too. I mean, screw it. So, and lastly, I could ramble about this forever, probably because I need therapy on it. But the last thing I'll say, Mike, is it's important for me to feel my feelings. When I see a comment that's like, oh, here's what JP thinks and here's why he's wrong and he's a jerk. It's like, oh, that stings for a little while. It stings less now than it did 2 years ago when I'd see him. But I've got to feel that for a moment and I need to breathe with it. Not just jump into the comments, but feel the feeling. So no perfect way to do it, but that's a sloppy, messy way that it works somewhat for me.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. As you were just mentioning that last part of feeling the emotion of that, for me, I'm like, I don't want to feel that, especially from someone I don't know. So I just, go numb and hit delete, right? So, and then move on because if I get into that and I do let it, affect me emotionally, then I'm distracted from what I need to get done or what I'm focused on or something else I'd rather be feeling, So clearly that's what is wrong with my approach or what are the consequences of that?
Yeah, sailing the sea of sailing the seas of the consequences of your choices. That's a term I heard Henry Rollins say recently. Sailing the seas of the consequences of your choices. I'm not arrogant enough to tell you there's anything wrong with that, but there's consequences, positive and negative consequences of avoidance, positive, negative consequences of avoiding engaging with, a project that would bring you a criticism. There's a note I have written on my desk, and it's been on my desk for 3 or 4 years because it's important for me to see every day. And the note simply says, "What wants to live through me?" ? I think life becomes more graceful. I think I grow exponentially more as a person. And I think I serve other people exponentially more when I can say yes to what wants to live through me. It's kind of like, okay, what creative idea is inspired or what project idea comes to my mind? And the question isn't, what do I want to do? It's what wants to live through me. And typically I find, and I'm getting a little esoteric here, but screw it, got to get ultra spiritual. But I find when it's something that wants to live through me, wherever that comes from, soul, higher self, intuition, mother nature, or I'm just hallucinating, making it up, there's always fear involved. I think what wants to live through us it's not engineered to reinforce our comfort zone. I think it's typically engineered to make us grow and expand, and therefore we leave our comfort zone. So I think if we have an idea and it scares us, and by the way, when we get scared, we're automatically going to create at least 150 rationalizations why not to do that thing. Then we'll believe them if we're gullible enough. I've been that gullible. Yet, I think saying yes to it anyway, even though we're afraid, even though, oh, yeah, facing all this criticism, that'll be scary. I don't even know how to deal with it. Yet we'll figure it out as we're stumbling along anyway. To me, that learning to say yes to what wants to live through me is a huge factor that increases our inner fulfillment. Honestly, I think it does a lot for our outer achievement. But to me, what really matters is the inner fulfillment part. I think really like solid outer achievement is typically symptomatic of a person being solidly fulfilled inside. But man, it's kind of the hero's journey. It's not easy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. And I think Brene Brown's quote that you mentioned earlier, I can see why you keep that at the forefront, because it provides courage and inspiration. So I think that's awesome. We've only got, maybe about 10 minutes left here. And I wanted to circle back around to the beginning of the call and provide a bit more, guidance or words of wisdom for folks who might be shy or timid about being themselves, which is interesting because at least in the online entrepreneur space, you end up with a bunch of people doing the exact same thing. So, which was highlighted in your entrepreneurial video. We'll put a link, by the way, to that one specifically in the blog post for JP's episode, in case you guys want to check that out. But let's go back to embracing your uniqueness, your weirdness, and giving people a dose of inspiration to do that.
Yeah. I think we're all weirder than we can think, to be honest with you. And I think that's a great blessing. I think normalcy is the worst disease we could ever suffer from. But the thing is, I think normalcy is safe. It's predictable. But it's us sort of turning the back on the unique miracle of the person that we are. So I think when we can come to terms with, okay, like what's weird about me? I think our weirdness becomes just a bridge to our authenticity. And I don't think there's anybody who can rightfully say, I know exactly who I am. I think figuring out who we authentically are, it's a journey. I think there's always room for us to grow and deepen our understanding. Yet when we can mine this most valuable resource that's ever been discovered, I think it does amazing things for us. And this resource is our authenticity, period. And I think our creativity is a dimension of our authenticity. Yet when, our authenticity, you can't put a price on it. You can't sell it. I think it's too valuable. So for me, it's a priceless resource. And here's the funny thing. It's incredibly renewable. It's incredibly sustainable. It's not a strategy. It's something from the miracle of your being that has more value than you know how to recognize. And I think when we can have the courage to say yes to what's authentic about us, bring it more fully, unapologetically into our personal lives, and maybe even more frighteningly, into our business lives, I think that's us bringing the miracle into a domain where it can work for us. Just a footnote on that. That's not at all advocating like, okay, let's abandon all our strategies. And I like to sit around in my sweatpants and fart all day. So let me have that be my new personal brand. No, we're just saying like, use your discernment, yet there is something unique about you, and it's unique about you for a reason. And my guess is the reason why that's unique about you is because it's meant to have expression in your life. That part of you is meant to be lived as well, not swept under the rug, not hidden. So I I might just be optimistic. I might just be hallucinating because there was magic mushrooms in my coffee. I don't think there were, but maybe there were. But I really, really think humans are the most valuable asset we have. I think we are our most valuable asset. And sometimes I think that gets forgotten. We tend to really value strategies and use ourselves and use people. But I think we need to kind of flip the script on ourselves and really value the mysterious miracle of our own being. Use strategies, but really value and worship the great creation that we are. And I know that's a little bit abstract, yet to make it at least slightly more practical, I would love to challenge the listeners to write down a list of 5 things that make you unique. And what are 5 authentic qualities of you? Be they weird or whatever they are, things you know about yourself, 5 qualities. And then I would once you've got those written down, I would challenge you. How can you unapologetically bring at least one of them into your business and into your personal life?
Awesome. Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up, because that was actually my next question is there a question someone can ask themselves to help discover and pull out that side? And that was perfect. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Well, you're welcome, brother. And I would dare say, if we're into a mode of self-sabotage and we pretend like, I can't think of any of these 5 qualities about myself, we'll go talk to the 5 people who are closest to you and ask them, hey, what are the 5 things that make me the most unique based on your perspective? Those 5 people closest to us will give us a list of 25 things that are probably, they may not be the absolute truth, but they're going to be pointed in the right direction for sure.
Awesome. Well, JP, this has been one of my favorite interviews that I've had here in a very long time. It was really great to get to know the personal side of your story, which I had not come across yet, and for you to share your words of wisdom with myself and the audience today. So thank you so much for that. And I cannot wait, but you've got a new book that just came out, How to Be Ultra Spiritual. So where can people get that, and what is that about?
Yeah, well, I put my heart and soul into the book. People can get it really anywhere books are sold, in your favorite online spots, or go steal it out of your neighbor's house if they've got it. But and there's a landing page for it, howtobeultraspiritual.com, if you want to make it super easy for yourself. And in the language of the book, it's all written through the language of humor, essentially written through the perspective of my ultra spiritual character. And so for me, there's a lot of laughs and entertainment to be had. And in my opinion, my deeper intention with it is to use the humor to deliver deeper messages for consideration. And some of those deeper messages are a continuing invitation to the call to courage for us to take a look at what has served me well, but is no longer serving me. And the invitation, the challenge for us to continue to connect deeper to our true self. So for me, that's some of the underlying intention that the humor is delivering through the book. So feel free to check it out, or certainly avoid it if you find me horrendously offensive.
Dude, you had me at the quote at the top of the page. So howtobeultraspiritual.com. And the quote you have at the very top is, I got really attached to this book from Buddha.
Yeah, that was fun. In the spirit of the book, a lot of especially the ones that have gone on the cover and the back cover, the endorsements are kind of like creative, like, oh, Buddha said this. But the one endorsement that was legit, how can we not put this on the book, was Tony Robbins. And I know you've had him on the podcast, which I love that episode. I'm a huge fan of Tony's, and I've been, very blessed for him to want to support the book project. So, him offering his support for it is a huge honor for me.
So one last question that might put you on the spot if you're not prepared for it, but the beginning.
I'm scared already, Mike.
Well, in the beginning, we talked about emotional healing, and one of the interesting observations that I've made throughout my career as an entrepreneur is that most entrepreneurs have had some kind of challenges in their youth, which gave them the drive and the discipline and the maniacal, focus to go change the world around them, to, have that ability, basically. And so the fact that you're not doing, personal sessions anymore, or taking on personal clients, if there's someone who can relate to your story, who knows that this is a challenge they need to work on, who could they call? Where should they go? Do you have any resources or references for them?
Yeah, well, on my website, awakenwithjp.com, on the client sessions page, I've got 3 people who I know personally. I've known them for years, who I'm now referring, all incoming, clients who want to work with me one-on-one. But so coaches and therapists that I'm referring out to, and so people can check out those specific recommendations if you'd like to. And by the way, I think there's 2 types of people in this world: those who are emotionally wounded, and then those who are in denial of being emotionally wounded. And then, I can't not say this, Mike, a great resource in kind of the book realm, John Bradshaw's work. The late John Bradshaw, he died, I believe, early 2016. And he's got a bunch of books, but 2 specifically that I think are great for helping people help themselves move beyond the limits of their own unresolved pain. Book number 1 is called Healing the Shame That Binds You. Now, if that's not an uplifting title, what would be? It's a thick read. It really is. Not for the faint of heart. And then the other book is called Bradshaw on the Family, obviously named after himself.
Very cool. Well, you were well prepared for that question, so that's awesome. Thank you very much for that. JP, thank you. This was fantastic. Guys, go check his book out and his work at awakenwithjp.com. Did I get that right?
Yep, awakenwithjp.com. Yeah.
Perfect.
And Mike, thank you so much for having me on. You are a beautiful person, according to my judgment.
Thank you. I've been sitting here, with fingers crossed in anticipation that would be the conclusion you came to.
There's the verdict. Your audition went well, Mike. You got the positive side of my judgment.
I'm not going to be blocked on Skype when we're done. Awesome. Right. Cool. Well, guys, thanks so much for joining us. This was a lot of fun. And please share this episode with those that you love and care about and who could use this information. And thank you again, and we'll see you next week. Take care.